Let's see. Hopefully, it won't shut me down again. Probably will. No, them. All right. Let's. Ooh, 1, 2, 3. Invite. Screen share. So I'm live now. Live again. I'm live again. So, guys, for those who are here, we were cut sadly. I suspect it's because maybe we're playing a video from. Oh, let me check the flag thing. Um, let's check the flag. Well, meanwhile, let me see if I can find my documentation. Am I still live? Right. All right. How terrible was that? Yeah. Well, let's see. That's been cut. If I go back, let's see if I go back to my channel. Oh, well, we're live now. No name, but I'll fill up in a bit. So there you go. We were cut, but it's a shame because if they click on it, they're going to go to the other one. But either way, we'll explain what happened now. Then maybe we'll see what happens. Um, what I've done as well is I've actually hopefully I can play that video now without it being shut down. I've now got a video that shouldn't get striked. Maybe I need to really So normally when we take videos, we follow the procedure. We put the videos in our own kind of framing, turn it black and white, blah blah blah. We usually add some kind of like music and stuff, but we haven't done this time. But maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe that's what it is. I'm gonna read the policies and see what it is. But meanwhile, I'm just gonna play a video from Sister Rose, I believe it is, while I try to see what happened. Hold on.
I'd like to introduce Afro Rose, and again thank this sister for all she does in the community.
Why my sister?
Yes, my sister. I don't normally come out for these types of things anymore. We've been doing this for a long, long time. 30 years on the ground, at protests, doing what we do. For this one, I had to come out. How can you take a mother, a young girl, who could have been my daughter or your daughter, Mel, maybe not your daughter actually, but certainly mine, and manhandle her in front of a preschool child? Yeah. Do they understand the corrosion and the toxicity that they're putting into this little baby boy? So when he grows up hating the police, distrusting the police, why is it they don't understand that this is a cycle that keeps continuing time and time again?
That's Jonas. Now we were covering the Emmett Till statue case. We were playing some videos, and I think they might have like an automatic flagging that shut down the show. I think so. I can't see any strikes or anything now, but let me go and see. It seems to be fine. But yeah, it shut down the show for some reason. But we're kind of listening to Sister Afro talking about the sister who was manhandled by the police officers.
We have been on these shores for 75 years. We have been on these shores. Has anything changed? No. Has anything changed? No. We are sick and tired. It was just a few weeks ago that there was a black man that died in police custody at this police station. Loads of us don't know about that. Why don't we know about that? It wasn't on the news, my sister. That's what they want. It was probably a little section or a segment in the metro if we were lucky. Yeah? It continues on and on and on again. And we're saying their time is up. Their time is up. These protests are great. It brings us together as a people, because we know that the issue isn't about black and white when it comes to racism. When it comes to racism, the issue is institutional. And it is against all of us. Every working class entity, it is against us. So what do? We come together, we rally, and then we leave. You leave under what banner you leave under, we leave under our banner, and nothing else happens after that. I'm calling for this time and for the next time, because we know it will come, that we have a national boycott. That's what we need to do. Of the style of Rosa Parks and the civil rights struggle. We need to do that. because this ain't getting us anywhere anymore. They're used to it. And as long as we behave ourselves and we don't raise any ruckus, we go away and the system continues time and time again. At what point are we going to up the ante? Yeah? They expect us to riot. Look what happened at the George Floyd riots around lockdown. They expect us to riot. They expect unrest. To some extent, I think they almost want it. Am I right?
Yes.
So we've got to come with a different tack today. This is what I'm saying. And what this opens out as well is the issue of fog towards black women.
Welcome back, family. The last show I ran today was cut. I'm trying to see if I got strike, but I can't see any strikes, so I have no idea what happened. No idea really. It did say that when I went to view it, it said this broadcast can't be viewed for whatever reasons, but I can't see any strikes. Maybe take some time to get a strike, but yeah, it looks like maybe a video I played. Maybe next time I need to work more on trying to master the audio. Who knows?
Whether that is from within in our community or from without. Now, for years we know that this has been an issue that has been pushed onto black men primarily, right? So now what are we seeing? A Sandra Bland scenario? Are we now seeing that black women are going to be targeted in the same way? What on earth? Where was the agency? She was let go afterwards. She didn't seem to pose a threat. But the heavy policing, the culture of heavy policing in the Metropolitan Police Force is what caused that. You understand? It's what caused that. Because if you take a young, fresh cadet and you put him in at Hendon, and he comes with nothing except wanting to fight the baddies. How is he ends up like the guy that we saw in the video? Because he is institutional. Because he gets sucked into that machine. That's what happens. Do you understand? And I'm saying, no more of this. Let's get it together. Let's organise ourselves and let's get a national boycott going. Let's not go to work. Let's not run the bus system. Let's not run the NHS. Because I tell you, from the time that our blood was shed here, from that windrush 75 years ago, it is us that keeps this infrastructure running. And it's time that...
It's just Afro. She's talking at a small rally about the sister who was manhandled by the police in front of her child. That's the major point. What we were going to do as well, you know what? Links will change as well, hasn't it? Gosh, oh gosh. Oh dear. Let me, hold on. Chat. Blah, blah, blah. Welcome everyone. Yeah, this is our second stream, and our first one got cut, I think, because we were playing videos from the Emmett Till case. A documentary, and I think the audio must have picked up an algorithm or something, I'm assuming. Maybe I should have added some kind of African drum over it to stop it, but who knows? But either way, we're looking at that scenario, and the sisters are trying to draw attention to, obviously, the mistreatment that's happened. But we did ask a question, have you been through a similar situation? If you were there yourself, how would you handle it different? We never want to do victim blaming, but we were also using the Emmett Till scenario as a segue to think about codified behavior in the sense of being aware you're in a harmful scenario, a situation, and unfortunately you might not be deemed as equal as others. So because of this reality, you adjust how you interact with law enforcement. You never expect to be treated equally, and you never shout like I have rights. And as Neely Fuller says, you don't fuss, don't flee, don't fight. This is never talking about the victims as in they're to blame, but it's trying to recognize we're not on equal paths, you see. And understanding these things, you might be able to minimize harm to yourself. And also, we definitely want to try to minimize our children seeing us being mistreated. But naturally, obviously, when things happen, things happen. But we're listening to Afro Rose there. I think have I put it in? I said that right. Let me put it in again. Hopefully this will work twice. So if anyone wishes to jump in, feel free to jump in on the link to have your say. Let me put on where is it? I will not. I'm probably very scared to play anything now, to be honest. Show's getting shut down. Why can't I get that on the thing? Oh, you're put in the middle. All right, cool. There you go. So why do police mistreat black women in front of their children? Because they can. I guess that would be the answer there. They can. We have done studies before that unfortunately many police all over the world, but they don't necessarily see black women as they see other women, and this also works in hospitals as well, where there shows they expect black women to take more pain, and it also works with black boys or your black girls. Generally, just being seen as black is problematic uh, in these scenarios. That's why we promote Black Betterment, B1, Black Love, Pan Africanism, anything, any philosophy that has black people working together for solutions. And sometimes we have to acknowledge that we can't really stop these things. So we have to then have a codified way of behaving. And we're asking the people, if you if you're in that scenario, how would you act? I'm gonna play the first video again, but I'm hoping that's not what got me flagged. I'm sure it must have been the news and the audio and stuff. I thought that by changing the grain and the video quality, I wouldn't necessarily infringe upon copyright issues, but I think I was wrong because the last thing was shut down. So let's look at the police wrongfully arresting the sister again. My time goes by quite quick. While we play this, the link is in the. If you wish to come and give your opinion, you can. Anything you want to say, you can say in the actual link. Remember, it's best to say if you're live because once it goes up, you can't say anything. If you wish to jump in, you can. But the question is, why do the police mistreat black women in front of their children? And by all means, you can tell us if you were in that situation, how would you handle it? The situation. So let's do it. So we're thinking, if we were there, what would we do? This by no means is judging the sister. It's hard to know how you're going to react when you're being confronted by police officers. But we're trying to develop ways of operating to minimize harm to ourselves and minimize the traumas that young children, black children, see when their parents are being mistreated. So let's have a sneak peek. I'll try to read that super speed fast, but for those who are joining me. So the police have been criticized for footage officers holding a woman's arms after she was arrested and immediately accused of bus fare evasion. The women.
Hold on. Why are you arresting her? Why are you arresting her?
Now you see her.
Why are you arresting her? Let me just stay in your car.
What
is going on? Why are they arresting her?
Had paid for a ticket. You're hearing the child screaming. Now that's the thing. Some of us are kind of being trained to expect mistreatment and expect things to go wrong. So we have a predetermined way of reacting to law enforcement and stuff. But not the average everyday person doesn't think that way. This is encoded, I've been told. Okay, it's encoded. So you kind of have to prepare yourself that this might happen. I don't know why she I don't know why she was approached about tickets. Like I don't know what would have made them think, especially a woman with a child. She had one. I don't know why it took 3 officers. It looks like to try to. Don't know. Were they waiting for her? Were they doing random checks? Were they following suspicious-looking people? And some, I guess, suspicious meaning black in some cases. Who knows?
Is that a son? What the?
When you say try not to use profanity in front of children, I know it's very challenging. That's one of the lessons we can learn. Maybe like if we can not use profanity in front of young children. Probably you might think, why not? I do it every day. I understand. But the thing is, you might have grown up in that normal way of doing things, but we always say we try to teach our children by example, and things like smoking, drinking, swearing in front of the kids, or just in general. Not good best idea. They asked everyone coming off the bus at that stop. Okay. Don't know why they did that, but apparently they did.
Can you tell me what she's done, please? No. Why not? It's my sister.
The brother is trying to be helpful. He's trying to say she's my
It's
sister.
my sister. What's she done?
So I think she's got her ticket in the hand, but I don't know that they're probably ignoring it.
The man is actually hurting.
Over a
What you haven't had to go her that for? I am. This is what you don't do. You don't. I haven't done anything. Can you get him off me, please?
Why are you handling her like that? Woman.
When they say the influencers don't fight, don't fuss, don't flee, that might be a good thing we try to uphold whenever we're being mistreated, if possible. I know it's hard. Sometimes the blood is boiling. Usually the blood boils because people feel that maybe they have like rights or that they're equal. And I know it sounds hard to do, but even though that might be on paper, in practice, we're not really there yet. So thinking that might not be in your best interest because then you might be setting yourself up to have high anxiety. And once you have that high anxiety, you might not be in control of yourself, and they might use that lack of control to then arrest you. You know, that circular arresting technique that many police have done historically. You know, they want to arrest you, you ask, why am I being arrested? And they say, because you're being aggressive. And it's like, well, that's kind of circular reason, wasn't it?
She's a woman. She's a woman.
Once again, you find that they might not necessarily care. They still they treat women with the same aggression, and even young boys and even young girls. Unfortunately, in many scenarios, we can do like a collage video editing of the man all over the world where black girls are being mistreated by police.
Oh, Becca, go over there.
Family, we're going to end the show very soon. If people want to, they can jump in and give their opinion. But unfortunately, many people might actually miss the show because we got cut. Pardon me, we got cut. I'm assuming for a strike. Let me see if the strike is there. Hold on, because it wasn't there when I checked. So let me see your videos. Your videos. But yeah, our first show got cut, unfortunately. It was very, very tragic. Very, very sad. But anyway, yeah, so let's know there was a bus inspector ticket people at the bus stop, and the police was on a job with them that day to help and stop people from fleeing at most people flee bus inspections. Is that what happens nowadays? Oh dear. Let me just check if any strikes have happened. Let's see. Any strikes on the lives? Usually it's red. No, it says public viewing. Am I missing something here? I'm trying to see if there's any. No. If you're here, feel free to like the channel. That might be that might help people find it on the algorithms. But we've had to start again because we were cut. So I'm gonna have to write part 1, part 2 in the actual description. How terrible. But I'm sure they'll work out. Yeah, we should have a pro call. If we get cut, just give it 5 minutes for me to redo the show. It's a show. For me, it's not making any sense because there's no strike or there's no you've done this, which is making it very hard for me to understand why the show was cut. Am I missing something? Because it's all public. There's no red flag. Who knows? Maybe when you do good deeds, you get punished. But anyway, we're asking the family, if you yourself were being stopped by police in that scenario with your child, how would you act? It's very important for us to know. Welcome, Rava Buddha Bing. Welcome to the Betterment Broadcast. Black Betterment to yourself.
Good evening, Raven. Long time, man. Hope you're well. Big up to the audience.
There you
go. So you asked a question. It's the question you ask is from a lady's perspective, I believe. But I would like to give it from a male perspective, if I may.
You may do that.
So I am of an age where I remember an incident in Brixton.
Mm-hmm.
One of the precursors to the Brixton riots. It was of an incident involving a lady called Cherry Gross.
Okay.
And the police at that time, the flying squad, the Sweeney, were executing a warrant to search the house to look for an individual.
Mm-hmm.
This individual was Cherry's Madame. I'll call her Madame Cherry's because she's a big woman for me. And she passed away, so God rest her soul. Her son, the police were looking for her son. The police executed the warrant, kicked off the door, and Madame Gross was not well. She was in bed. The police shot her while she was in bed with her 11-year-old child lying next to her. That bullet stayed in her body until she died. They couldn't remove it. Now, this was news throughout London, throughout the UK. Now, as a child, an immature brain, a very young child at that, the feasibility of the police kicking off your door and shooting your mum was a reality. A reality to a child anyway. Had I been older, maybe I would have a different perspective, but for a child, it was a very scary situation. Bearing in mind, I'm from that area of London. I was brought up in that area of London. So you can understand the reservations growing up that one would have against the police. It was legitimate fear. As a child, it was legitimate fear. As I got older, it turned to anger. But as it so transpires, in later life, I managed to work within Lambeth Council. And the work I'd done involved weekly meetings with community police, MPs, etc., etc., etc. Now, the police get to know who I am. I'm quite how can I put this? If I'm standing in a room, I have a tendency to stand out from the others. Let's just put it that way. So the respect that was given to me and the respect that was reciprocated was one of, like, because it's a community affair, and Brixton was one of those places where it's a tinderbox. It can erupt, and if it erupts, 1980s, we remember the riots. I saw the video that you played. I saw it on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
What I find remarkable is this. What do you think that, just out of curiosity, do you think that incident could have happened in Brixton?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. I think they said it happened in Croydon, right? Am I wrong? I think it happened in Croydon.
Croydon, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the scenario is she's surrounded by more black people or something, then I suspect that might minimize that, or it might have not happened in the first place just because of the area.
Yeah. They've got a tendency to operate a little bit differently with them plastic smile. But for me, I look at it like this. The onus is on all of the police. So, and not just all of the police. There was a police female there. So from one female to another, you'd expect some sort of understanding or some sort of like sisterhood. Why I'm saying that, why would I expect that, I don't know. But it's the police we're talking about. But regardless, the onus is on the police to hold other police accountable. So, for instance, if you see your colleague, you're a policeman, and you see your colleague doing something that's criminal or immoral or anything like that, the onus is upon you to intervene to see that justice is done. And from that video, we didn't see any of that, which only reinforces the whole institutionally racist organization. But let me mute up and I'll let you carry on.
No, well, thank you. I mean, and what we've done, the brother has he's spoken about Dorothy Cherry, and I've posted a link to the case, a covered case. She died, unfortunately. She was paralyzed in 1985, and it led to the riots. And I think they were trying to enter a house for her son, I believe, and she passed in 2011. I don't know if she sued successfully. I have to check. I have to read the article, but this was the.
I was at a funeral. I went to I think Shakira was at a funeral as well. And there's Lady G. There's a DJ. Where is she? Choice. I think it was Choice FM at the time, but Lady G. That was Lady G's mother. I didn't even know.
Oh man,
like it makes sense now. Lady Gross. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the scenario on that one is, were they looking for her son, or was her son there?
They were looking for her son. Her son was there, and I think he was like 21 years old, but he wasn't there at the time.
And big up Fee, who's saying, remember Joy Gardner. I'll post the info on that. Joy Gardner died in '93. She was 4 years old, and she was detained in the police immigration raid on a house in Church End. It looks like she was gagged, handcuffs, leather straps, and gagged with a 13-foot length of a piece of tape wrapped around her head, and she was unable to breathe. I don't know why they would do that. She suffered brain damage. Very terrible, it seems. Yeah, seems to. Maybe we should try. What we would do is, if we should collate all these and just try to really go through them. But we are talking today about it's Church End. That's right. Yeah, we are talking today about why do police mistreat black women in front of their children. Just in general, they shouldn't. But the brother said, there was another woman there, and maybe there's some kind of woman bond. And then other people say, well, their children is there, and I think all that goes out the window. And I think understand that is why we're saying that not expected to be treated equal is very important. Now, in certain scenarios, there's nothing you can do. If you're going to be harmed, you're going to be harmed. But we are trying to find codified ways of behaving that could minimize harm if possible. And that's why we refer to people like Lee Fuller Jr., who says, don't fight, don't flee, don't fuss. That might be a good one, but it is hard to do that at times when you feel like you're being persecuted, or you just, you have been trained for that kind of interaction. We were joined by Brother Kel, but I think, unfortunately, his internet cut. So, unfortunately, I'm sure he had a lot to say on this topic. Go ahead, brother.
Let me ask you this, Rap Raven. So, what do you think the interaction between the police and the Nation of Islam is like? Can you envisage a situation where the police feel say they can go and rip up members of the Nation of Islam?
No, I think because the Nation of Islam are quite. First of all, they have their own kind of like Fruit of Islam military group, but they've also I think because they're quite disciplined and trained, you tend to find that Nation of Islam don't really overreact at all, and they're quite good at actually de-escalating any kind of. From what I've seen, from what I've seen. So I don't think it will be the same kind of scenario with them. But I don't know if you've got any different kind of information or if that makes sense.
So yeah, it does make sense to me. But for me, the overall outstanding thing that I can see with the Nation of Islam is their discipline and their organization. Yeah. Now, if you're, to use a street vernacular, if you're perceived as some kind of a nitty or some kind of a drunkard or something like that, I would imagine it's more easy for them to feel, say, they can take liberties. You understand? Right. But when you're standing correct and you're dressed correct and you hold yourself a certain way, you speak a certain way, and you've got that discipline, I can tell you firsthand, my interactions with the police, they don't really have an option other than to show me a certain degree of respect. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be big-headed here or bossy.
No. I hear what you're saying, and I can correlate with it. I think, you're talking like in the situation you're in, there was an awareness you had, and if the awareness you had, you'll use it to your advantage. And unfortunately, with so many brothers out there, they don't have that discipline or awareness, and they're still in the mindset that I have rights. So it's just kind of like I have rights, my rights
Yes.
are being violated. I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry because how dare you violate my rights? And this we're trying to. I had a strong disagreement with many men in when I was at talking, and they were all like, okay, the police are there. They've done me wrong. I start shouting and screaming, and I was saying the best way to see it is if you view it like from the Nazi Germany scenario where the Jews at the time of Nazi Germany, they knew they weren't equal. They knew that these people disliked them and they're looking for a reason to harm them, right? So they never fought, they never fight, they never fussed early on. Like they're
Yes.
trying to get away, they're trying to be polite. And the thing is, when you talk to so many black people about being polite and stuff, they're like, why would I be polite and kind when someone's violating my rights and stuff, right? Who do they think they are? But this is why I talk about strategy is important. It's almost like the analogy,
100%.
the
Yeah.
analogy I give many brothers and sisters is you got to think. Let's just pretend there's a war going on, right? Now, if there's a war going on, you might have one person from the nation who goes, "I'm now going to dress up like the opposition, right? And then become a spy and give you information. So I'm going to pretend to be someone else so I can trick them so we can get information on our
100%.
team,
Yep.
right? But the problem is some people's mindset that they think like, well, why would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to be the enemy? And what I'm trying to say, I'm giving this analogy in the sense of asking someone to be calm when their rights are being violated, they're like, why should I? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you see it as a strategy, just like give the analogy about pretending to work for the other team so you can get information to help your team, it's like that. It's doing things out of the box because you know you're at a disadvantage. So you're trying to be one step ahead rather than one step behind. And this
Right.
is what we're trying to teach. Go ahead, brother.
I would expand on that. I would say that okay, so I would say we as a people, as a minority, need to understand, like you just said, we need to understand that we are a minority and we are going to be treated as such. That doesn't mean that we can't employ certain tactics. Like the example you gave is absolutely right. Do you know how many conversations I've had during my lifetime where man beats his chest and said, you know what, I'm on this, I'm front line, I'm got your cannon fodder. You need to be a bit more Machiavellian in your thinking. You need to understand the art of war. There's no point in just having soldiers that are willing to die for the cause, because that's exactly what you will die. Exactly what you do is die. We don't want to die, we want to win. You understand? By any means necessary, like our brother said. And if that means dressing up as the enemy and infiltrating and gathering data and intel and all the rest, then that's what needs to be done. That's what we have to do. Like, how down are you for this thing? Do you get what I'm saying? I feel like people get, I can understand emotion, I can understand, but above all of that, discipline must prevail.
That's one of the 4D values we promoted. This was very important. Big up, Sister Sankofa. You're welcome to jump. Did I pin the thing up? I don't know if I pinned it up. If anyone wants to jump in, the link is there. I think I forgot to pin it up. Let me check.
I think it is pinned because I clicked it to come in.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. What I was saying as well is, for those you might follow the link to another chat, but that chat was shut down. I think we might have been flagged or something. But I think if you, that's why it's very important to like, if you can, family, like the show, but also follow the channel if you don't follow the channel. So whenever things become live, you'll be able to see it. And unfortunately, you're gonna have to get used to potentially shows being shut down halfway through because of violations and so-called violations and stuff, playing videos and all that kind of algorithm stuff. So I'm just gonna let me pin this again. So if you wish to jump in, family, just click on the thing. What we were talking about for the sisters who's joining, and maybe it's an exercise you might want to do before we go. That is, why do police mistreat black women in front of their children? We show the video of a sister being manhandled by 2 male police officers while her child was screaming, and there was a brother who tried to help out, which is good. But they suspected that she was traveling with no travel card, ticket offences or something like that. and she did have one, but we were asking, like, is there a way? We're never blaming the victim, of course not. The blame is on the mistreatment of the officers, but we're saying because of the trauma she's gone through and what the son's gone through, is there a way we could minimize that by having codes of conduct of how we behave when facing the police? And we mentioned don't fuss, don't flee, don't fight. We also mentioned that might be very challenging. Brother Buddha Bing has talked about the value of discipline and why that's important to have discipline. And he gave examples of some collective groups in the community who specialize in discipline, and their interactions is when it comes to challenges is tremendously minimized. Um, so yeah, this is what we're thinking of. We're enjoying everyone. Let's say a black bear.
Well, just to add to your saying, I've got my own personal saying,
Go ahead.
and it's not react, counteract.
Okay,
So
there you go.
Try not to be reactive in response to these adversities. Counteract it.
There you go. Wise words from Brother Buddha Bing. We're joined by Sister Sankofa Rising. So, Black Bearman sister, welcome to the panel.
Black Betterment, my brother Raven, and the other brother, who's with us today. Yeah, man, big up yourself. Sorry, I don't know how much I've missed, to be honest. But I just realized the time. I'm alert, so I was like, let me quickly jump on because I've missed so many shows. So yeah.
Welcome. It's always good when you can join us when you do it. So it's always a pleasure. And I think we've got another sister. Oh, we're both on, yeah. So what we're saying is that I don't know if have you seen the video circulating of the sister who was.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And first we always state we're never going to victim blame here, but we were saying through watching it was quite sad to see. But because there's a child was there, we were saying, is there a way we could have, as a code, we can minimize these kind of things from happening? Sometimes you can't. And we also watched the video from Emmett Till. Now, the reason we're watching that video from Emmett Till is because, and that's what we think got the last show striked as well.
Yeah.
That was they made a statue in America, and I think the talk was this is more symbolic kind of gestures rather than actual policies. So we were just catching up with what actually happened to Emmett Till, and he wasn't from I think it was Mississippi. He was from maybe Chicago or
Yeah.
And he went there and he, when the kids were talking, they said that we're aware we're in a white neighborhood, so we have a way of operating. And it's like, yes, sir, no, sir, ma'am, and very polite and never looking at certain people because they knew as young kids they get killed. But him not being from there, he didn't know. And he apparently did like a cartoon Tom and Jerry kind of whistle sound when the shopkeeper came out. And I think that made them want to kill him, unfortunately.
You know that was a lie. The woman retracted that statement.
I heard that as well. I did hear that. I heard that never happened, and because in the documentary the kid said that's what happened, but I also heard that she retracted that, and I think that's another thing where we were looking at the whole, I think Biden said, justice and stuff, and I was questioning like, well, in that scenario, how is justice served where everyone who killed him got off, and the woman who lied about this actor went and got the men to do this heinous act. Lived until she died of old age for quite some time. She only died a few years back. So, the question was there's two things. One, do a lot of black people maybe fall for symbolic gestures? And two, is there a value in a codified way of behaving so you can minimize these kind of deaths?
Sorry, say the first question again.
So the question is, could there be in these scenarios a codified way of behaving? So we could use the woman's scenario, for example. So
was that the first question? I heard that question. Was there another one?
It was more so I think talking about black people and symbolic gestures and
okay.
being aware that these are actually symbolic gestures, but no policies or recognitions or punishments have happened for the crimes that you're making. So there's a whole lot of statues of black people murdered by non-black people, but there's no actual talk about how justice will be served or what policy will come in to make sure that doesn't happen again, or the severe, like they had that Asian hate bill, and it was very particular. So COVID hit, and people were attacking people of Asian descent, thinking that they create COVID or something like this, and they straight away made bills, and even black people. I saw many of the black Twitter space and stuff would jump on and say we must support our Asian brothers and sisters, but we don't necessarily see that kind of stuff when black people are mistreated. We get more statues and this kind of stuff. So we're asking, can we be more aware of those symbolic gestures, and also, I guess, training to be passive. Really, I mentioned this at the march with the I invited a brother on the show, but he didn't want to come, and there was a brother who he saved the white supremacist from being beat up from he was trying to attack many of the sisters, and unfortunately for himself, I guess he was beaten, and there was a brother who jumped in to save him, and then I was just got the call that when the brother went to save him, he was given medals, money, magazine stuff, many different TV stuff and TV appearances, and he was held up as that this man is so kind that he saved a racist person. They never got the racist person to apologize or to, and I think the racist person was also, he might have been ex-force, like he might have been in the police force, something like this. So many things. But what I'm saying is that kind of like you're seeing.
Is this the thing in Waterloo you're referring to?
Is that the
during the
statue,
the Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter thing. So for those,
I was actually there when that happened.
So you will have seen it.
I was actually there. I saw that with my own eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And if I'm not mistaken, the black guy was a policeman as well. They're both police.
I don't know if I know he was. He might have had a history of being. I'm not too sure. I forgot his name. Shame on me twice. But and a nice brother. I spoke to him. He privately messaged me on his page. But I was asking him like, do you not see his issue? That very interesting that you're essentially being praised up and promoted and propped because. You saved a white supremacist, and that seems to be what they're training us to kind of do. Well, they haven't asked the white supremacist to come on the show and apologize or explain why he was trying to mistreat children.
So on a personal level, Raven, let me ask you: was he right or wrong to do his actions?
Well, I never try to say right or wrong. I always try to say like, does these actions benefit black people? And are you being used? I think unfortunately, black people historically, we're always like 2 steps behind because the people who are plotting, they play chess and sometimes we play Connect Four, this kind of stuff, right? So it's like we're not really playing the same game. And I'm saying that there is a marketing, and we covered this before with Oprah Winfrey. She did a similar thing, where there's a marketing where black people should turn the other cheek. And when I look at like things like this statue being put up, but the woman who killed him and lied about him lived happily until her death, as well as her husband and other people who did the act. This is what I'm saying, where we've been trained to be passive and docile and happy to turn the other cheekism, right? I would never go to the brother and say
subservient.
Yeah, subservient. Of course, yeah. But I would never go because a lot of our brothers the thing is, this stuff is so trained that in the hearts and minds of many black people, they're doing the right thing. Like he's done the right thing here, right? And what I'm saying is you have to have a black first mentality. And this man is a racist who went there to attack women and children. And in the acts, they were defended and he was harmed. It's almost like, I think I was at a play with Brother Zephaniah. This was many years ago, and this is when he first was given the OBE.
Benjamin Zephaniah. Yeah.
So I used to do some work with him. He wrote a book called Gangster Rap, I think it was, and he wanted to do like a stage production or a film production. So we were talking about that, and then I went to a couple of these seminars and stuff he was doing. But I was in one of his it was a documentary about him turning down the OBE, and it was just like they were going to give him something, but he turned it down because he had an awareness, right? And he said, well, I don't want anything that has the word empire in it because of the history and what it means. So it's that kind of awareness that it would be good if black people to have, like there's an awareness that you're being asked to turn the other cheek and be subservient, even when there are direct threats against you with people who show absolutely no sense in apologizing. I think recently as well, we covered this European lady, white lady called Pearly Things, I think, and how she used like black men. There's a thing called the manosphere where she'll jump in and she'll mistreat black women and get a whole load of like views, and they called her like she was the king of the black manosphere, and it was like black men not seeing that they're being used or whatever. But then what was interesting is she then started inviting white supremacists on her show, and she would always defend him, and now she's I think she made a song about Jewish people and like a quick song, and then obviously now the Jewish people go on call and try to shut it down, and as they should. But you'll see, she's still doubling down, and she wants to be in that white supremacist crowd. But you see how they operate, how they're quick, and they know how to shut down things that don't work in their best interest. And the goal is to get.
Can I share an experience with you?
Oh, sure they can.
And it's very similar to what we're talking about here.
All
So
right.
you may or may not know that I'm a chef by trade.
Okay. Excellent.
And prior to COVID, I worked in a homeless shelter. I cooked food for homeless people.
Nice.
Now, within the homeless community, there are a lot of Eastern Europeans, Polish, Romanian, etc., etc. It just so happened that there was about six guys who were Hungarian. Hungarian or Bulgarian? Hungarian or one of the two. Okay. Now, these were overt neo-Nazis.
Yes.
When I mean overt neo-Nazis, these guys, they rolled in a crew. They all had swastikas and paraphernalia, skull and bones, all of that kind of stuff. I don't need to go. I'm sure you get the image. Okay, yeah. Cool. So now I'm cooking food for these individuals, not just them, but the whole, everyone that attends the day center. I cook food for them, and I serve the food. Now, in my mind and in my heart, I'm so conflicted. I have to now provide food to these bunch of neo-Nazis. Can you imagine the situation I felt myself in?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And the reason I was so conflicted was like, these guys hate me.
Yeah.
They hate everything I stand for. They hate my culture, my color, my everything. If I was hungry, would they feed me?
No.
You see what I'm saying? But I suppose my Buddhist belief and my dedication to my work persevered, and I ended up feeding them.
Yeah, well, let me jump in on that. So I think in your scenario, it might be slightly different from others in the sense of you have a particular job that is catering to the public of a certain demographic, right? So, and I would equate that more so to like, imagine you're a doctor or a nurse, and emergency person came in, and then they got bullet wounds in them, and then when you took off their chest, they've got Nazi tattoos everywhere, right? Or I hate black people all over their body. You still have a job to do. The job is you have to try to save people. You don't know the story, you don't understand, but it's more of a job. It's like, this is a job, and regardless of who comes in, I have to do these tasks. That's very different from you going out of your way to help someone who's trying to harm you. You see?
Yeah, I see the point. Yeah,
it's a very different. And
nevertheless, I felt disgusted with myself.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't though. I mean, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't, because the truth of the matter is, and this is something that I have to learn as well. It's like when you look at the dedication of non-black people towards their own benefits, it really is quite remarkable. And I think, unfortunately, we can look at Emmett Till. Obviously, it was extremely despicable and diabolical. But what we looked at is they had a scenario where their hatred for black people and love for themselves was so strong that they knew that black people, if they came in and even if a child was to whistle at a woman, he would be killed. Yeah. So it shows that they were so into their own thing and so had such a strong hatred for us that they could do that. Now, I don't recommend you ever have a strong hatred for anyone else. Some might recommend. I would. I say that rather than do that, have a strong love for self. So it's more so maybe you are, giving food to Nazis, and it's not your best interest. You're not best pleased with it. But at the same token, you can then take time to try to do dedicated things for Black people, and that way you can really balance out, and that'll be very helpful. The brother who helped the brother in that riot, I don't know. I'm sure he does many wonderful things for Black people in his own time. I don't know, but I don't think he sees anything wrong with what he's done, and all power to him. But it is important to get an education of understanding that this is all programming and it's quite consistent, and it seems to be strongly directed at Black people to be very, very subservient when mistreatment is coming our way, and to be very forgiving, and to have no kind of policies of defense, but symbolic. It's the irony is that there is in America there's a statue of a murdered person, boy, where everyone got away with the murder, and they have a statue. And it's like, but you've passed no policy to stop it. It's like it's a statue.
Yeah, it's strictly to pacify.
And I say,
Those.
sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry, my brother. What's your name?
My name's Buddha.
Buddha. I wanted to say, give thanks for your honesty and your reflection, because firstly, we struggle with it on a basic level. But I understand why you feel the way you feel. Because when I was listening to you, I was saying, and I get Raven's example. It's not even so much the profession; it's the context of your work, if that makes sense. So I get it. Like you're saying, if you're a doctor, you're in the mix of your work. However, yeah, we're still having our lived experience, and everyone else can have their lived experience. You understand? If you want to say something and look in someone's face while you're serving their rice and be giving them a good cussing, they're still lucky to be getting fed.
Yeah, no,
Right.
all of those things pass my mind. Like, do I give him a smaller
But
portion?
I'm saying, no,
Do
and this is what I'm saying. Your reflection
all of these things,
in saying that I feel a certain way about myself. And I'm not saying what I'm saying because I'm saying, good, I'm glad you feel a certain way about yourself. I'm saying the fact that you felt away because of what this is, and overstood that something has to change. Like, this is not a situation you want to be in again tomorrow and you respond in the same way. You understand? You want to find a way that you feel that you respond in a way that makes you comfortable. Does that make sense? And that reflection will continue to develop to help you to prepare you for the next time, because there will be a next time in a different way. Do you understand? So
indeed, 100%.
It's a case of that. That's why I say your reflection is refreshing, because it's honest. Because many of us are in them type of circumstance, and we're not honest. So when we're talking about how we respond to things, because we are very individualistic in our collective fight, because we've bought into individualism, that cancer is eroding at us. So we deal with things individualistically. So like the sister and her son, and people saying, her responding differently. I get it, but I know that escalated very quickly. I don't drive. I bees on the bus. And I've been a parent on the bus, and even the bus driver certain times, listen, make you come out of yourself. So, and I'm not saying that I've got that way, but I'm saying I've seen the escalation and the antagonistic behavior of police and black people on the bus. I can't black women, but just black people. I've seen children get terrorized differently by police. Do you get what I'm saying? So with her child, that was instant panic because the only thought that she's thinking is, where's my child going? If you're arresting me, my child's going to social services. And then the bigger shock is over Oyster cards. Are you over bus fare? This is not happening. So I understand her panic. The collective conversation is that everybody should have been doing what the brother was doing.
Yes.
Do you know one time, recently, I saw a video going around and 2 police was by themselves and they was, I don't know, harassing 2 young princes. And then one of them must have tackled the prince down and he's fighting the young prince, fighting. How can a sister come out from nowhere, start tackle and beat up the policeman? Yeah, gave him some good licks, jumped on him and everything. Now, bare people was at the bus stop, and the young prince was kind of getting away. It was a very strange situation, but her nature to just jump in was, I was like, yeah. Now imagine if 20 people did that.
Well, that's where you want to be, where it kind of like the murder of George Floyd, where there was actually a whole other people around him while he's been murdered, and you do feel like if everyone, obviously America's very different because they're very quick to shoot people.
But whether it's America or here, again, it's we have to keep talking about the bigger conditioning.
Yes.
Because of fear, there's a genetic fear.
Yeah.
When we talk about everyone can have post-traumatic syndrome for all kinds of situations, the list is infinitely long. But those of African descent don't have post-traumatic syndrome. You're just living in white society. That's why when we keep, when people always rise up Malcolm X, sometimes we forget about what his actual conversation was. And Malcolm X, alongside speaking truth to power and giving us political education, he also gave us history and kept reminding us of how barbaric the people we're living with is and why we live in this type of fear. It's not a rational fear. If somebody was hanging pregnant women from trees and slitting open her stomach for babies to come out, this is the ancestors and continue till present day. Like, this is not little bit fear.
You said you did say that when you're on the bus, that you see agitation and stuff. And we were talking before you jumped on about, obviously, naturally when these things happen, people get frustrated. But we recognize that with the power dynamic, we're at disadvantage. So what could be done to...
we are and we're not. Because a lot of the time, when we see certain things and we see people are standing around and watching, 99% of the time, they're not surrounded by a different race. They're surrounded by a mixture. So we dead there. Most of the situations I've seen, especially around children, when I get involved, I'm shutting it down. I'm not just here to come and talk, to be just making noise with you. And more often than not, when I talk more, these people are so rude, they don't think we can string sentences together.
So we're breaking down scenarios of what would we do if we ever saw the situation or we were in a situation. And we're trying to think of best case scenario. And we're obviously putting the dynamic of being a woman as well as having a child with them.
What I would say, though, about that same situation, as much as I understand her fear, I am questioning, because there's a period of time, unless the feds was just around, there's a period of time from the bus incident until police come. And I need to know what happened in that space.
Yeah. So I've got a video here, and the video, it seems, I think the brother Dominic said they're waiting. What they do, they're waiting outside the bus to do I think they do on the trains more as well, but they do on the bus where they do random checks, and when like in
Oh, okay.
and it's to find a person who's a card,
Yeah.
which is interesting because now the day of like bank cards, it must be harder to track that, but who knows? But I think she walked past them and they asked to see her card and she carried on walking, and then I think they did try to apprehend her. Now she actually did pay her fare, she did, and it's was that articulated, or was it that she felt she didn't need to articulate it, or I don't know. But the reason why, the only concern I have is she could have acted however she wanted. It's her freedoms, but it's only because there's a child with her that it's very important to try to de-escalate something. And if you actually have the what they want, unless they're ignoring her, and I think at some point it did look that way because she at some point it looks like she's actually holding her card towards the end of this video. So, and this is the thing, but that's once again when you're panicking and
But you see, what you've just described,
mm,
and this is part of what I'm saying in terms of how we show up and always reflecting in that way. And I say that to say, because if we're trying to empower ourselves and our children, yeah, I've scanned my Oyster, I've scanned my bank card, whatever on the bus.
yeah,
You want to do 99% of the time, the most effective way for ticket evasion is you come on the bus with your machinery and check people's thing.
mm,
And you can check it through your bank card.
mm,
They've the technology's done.
mm,
So if I walk off the bus and you call me and I don't hear you, but I choose not to hear you as well, because it's my free right. Hello. I'm
yeah,
off the bus. The
mm,
journey is finished. The evasion is done.
mm.
I
I
still
feel
walk in.
like,
Oh well, I'm one that got away.
I feel like again, I'd love to know what repercussions took place to the police after the fact, but I would say this:
None probably.
the police are better placed with their training and their de-escalation tactics, and they are better placed to handle this situation much better than the way they did. I'm looking at the video.
But we're assuming that they have that. I've never seen
They have,
police act like they got it.
but listen, I used to do security. I was a doorman. I was a bodyguard. I've done training, like conflict resolution training. If I've done that as a security guard, then I'm pretty sure the police have done higher levels than that. So, it's part of their curricula as training that they should be doing that. And if they haven't, they should, the questions need to be asked why. At no point should these police individuals should be putting hands on anyone. Is she detained? Like, why is she being cuffed over a oyster? If I was there, I would have paid the ticket again. I would have paid I would have fling £10 in the guy's face and say, "Done what?" Like, this is ridiculous over a bus ticket. Like,
that's what I'm saying. That if they've been trained in that way and they're consistent in their supposed erratic behavior with us, that's what I'm saying. I can't see if this training is really there. It doesn't make sense.
I would have come with the whole, is this a Rosa Parks situation here? Like, what are we doing here? Like, just I feel like the tongue mightier than the sword still. Like,
I think by what we're saying, we're drifting closer to that kind of like we have rights and this kind of stuff. And I think for what I see, the best way to view this scenario is the awareness that there is a power dynamic, and it's a strategy of how do I, especially when I'm with children, get away unharmed. You see, and Neely Fuller says, "Don't fight, don't flee, don't fuss." And I think if you're an individual person, then you can do what you want. But when you've got your child with you, or an elderly person, or you're not alone, then it's more than one person involved in the actions you do. And I think, she's a woman, so already for me, there's a high concern for her safety, and she's a woman with a child. And I think, from my experience, a lot of people get angry because they feel that their rights are being violated. And I get that because on paper we have rights, right? I think in reality, the dynamic is not there. So that's why I keep giving analogies about the Hitler, not Hitler, the Jews and the Nazi as like at a certain point the Jews were aware that they are not seen as equal and there's a power dynamic. So they were trying to get in and out as quick as possible. They didn't want to argue like, "Can you show my rights?" and you mistreat me. And it's like, "Yes, sir, I'll do that." And I think when we looked at the very good point to segue. When we looked at the Emmett Till video, all the children knew that when we go into the shop, we're going there because there's no other shop in the area. We have to go there. But we know that if we do anything of a certain slight nature, yeah, that is very normal, maybe, will get us killed. So, uh, because we want to survive, in this scenario, we don't do that. Is that right? That a person shouldn't be able to be free when they go a certain place? No. However, we understand that people can be killed, and when they can be killed, people can get away with it, as is the history of Emmett Till and the woman who murdered him, and then her husbands in this. So it's like understanding that power dynamic that we're not there yet to say I have rights.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
listen, Rap Raven, I'm looking at the time. I got work tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna
of
have to
course.
cut. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Sorry, madam, I didn't even catch your name.
Nahanda.
Nahanda. Nice to meet you,
Yeah,
Nahanda. Um,
bless up.
take care. We'll speak again soon. Take care. Good night.
Take care. Good
I'll
night.
go on, everyone, family. So yeah, sister, this is what before you came on. This is what we were trying to say. Like, it is very hard to tell a man or a woman when they're being violated to don't fight, don't flee, don't fuss, right? But what we're saying is um, understanding the dynamic we're in, and it's hard. But the only kind of help I can give is viewing things as strategies. And before you came on, we were giving analogies about there's a war going on, and there's two teams, and they hate each other, completely hate each other. They don't want to mimic each other. They don't want to look like each other. They despise each other. But one of them, he loves his team so much. He says, "I'm going to dress up like the opposition, learn their language, learn their ways, live amongst them, just so I can feed my own people the information as a spy, so we can have the advantage." But the average person, when they suggest, I go, "Ah, I can never do that. I can never dress like the enemy. They're wicked. Do you know what I mean?" But that's why I use the term strategy. It's a chess move. It's like, how can I act to push myself and defend my family, defend my kids? And sometimes that might be don't fight, don't fuss, don't flee.
I hate you. I think even if she herself is responding differently, even though we've seen evidence that, you know, to some extent. Anyway, the point being is, how do we still all play a different part to strengthen that response?
Mm.
Because that's what I'm saying. That response doesn't always, it not doesn't, more often than not, it still doesn't play out in the way we think it will, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. We shown a video of Tamir Rice in America,
Yeah,
and
like
he was, I think he was very young.
you got 12 or something.
Yeah, or even younger maybe. And he was playing with a toy gun.
Toy gun, yeah.
And I think we were trying to think of. I think they were trying to think of scenarios of how to protect.
He got shot in like 9 seconds.
Yeah, it was literally he was there playing. A cop drove, stopped the car, turned the window down, and shot him dead. That for me personally, that's one of the worst things I've ever seen when it comes to the murder of black people. Like every murder is terrible, right? I think Emmett Till was a very bad one, without question. But that was there was no chance of. It's like he was determined the threat. I think right after we showed an example of two European white children in some state, I can't remember. And what they did, they broke into a person's house, stole the guns, and then was shooting outside the window. And then you see all the police like shouting at each other, don't shoot their children. And they managed to like wait for the kids to reload before they jumped in the window and tried to apprehend them. It's like when you see that dynamic, you're thinking, yeah, this is a problem. But it ties into what I'm saying is in acknowledging that you're not in the same dynamic and acknowledging you don't
Mm-hmm.
have the same rights. And if you acknowledge that, then you can push strategy in your choices. And I understand people get angry, but it's understanding that the dynamic doesn't work in our favor so many times, and trying to
But you only understand that though by the beginning of what you said.
mm,
We are at war,
yes, there you go. That's a perfect.
and a lot of us are struggling to get our head around just that concept that we are at war,
Mm,
and we're and what type of war we're in,
mm,
because war is sold to us in one dimension to some extent. On the ground bombing, we think that's war. So because we're not living that here, we're not
mm,
at war really. Yeah, there's something. There's racism.
mm,
Racism hasn't got a face, if you get what I mean.
mm,
And racism is institutionalized in a sense that it's a mythical thing. It's in here, but we can't see
mm.
it. Kind of thing. Who's doing it? So yeah, we are not the at war piece is a big struggle, because the moment you're at war, you start to think differently,
It's a good point, and that is true. Like trying to talk to the average everyday person, these concepts are very difficult to understand,
which is what I'm saying.
and I think it also informs of the choice they make by not knowing that.
This is
So
it.
who they choose to marry, what they choose to do with
All
their
of that,
time,
all of that, all of that.
it's the nature of the threat isn't really detected. And you when you try to explain to them, there's so much backtracking you need to do, and it,
So
yeah,
the race first only happens when we know we're at war.
yeah,
You
no,
understand?
mm,
So I'm saying it's as simple as race first. I say that all the time, innit? When people are like, yeah, but race first unrealistic at the end of the day. It's unrealistic the longer we don't realize we're at war.
no, I agree. When I've done all the research and the years go by, the conclusion is the same. Without having a B1 race first mentality, you won't have the capacity to keep going because you'll keep being distracted, and then you'll be put on different paths, and then before you know it, you're spread thin and you're doing things that ain't in your collective best interest. And it happens consistently. Um,
And then we continuously compare or say, look at what this community is doing, look what that community is doing.
yes, but they are doing race first.
But yeah, and don't realize you're just giving me further examples of race first.
Yeah.
But when I'm saying to you, that's why we have to acknowledge and start to repair, get into our healing processes of what the African story is, because
Mm,
that's what connects us, that's what sews us together, that's what's going to strengthen us.
mm,
History is not important. We're in a different time now. One bag of nonsense.
mm.
All
No,
because we don't realize we're in full-fledged war right now.
well, that's the whole point of the Black Betterment Broadcast is to find out what works and try to repackage it in a way that can be digested easily to the average everyday black person, right? And can push them on a path that can keep them towards betterment. And it's like reviewing what they're saying, what they're doing, and how can we either find a way to make this appealing or to try to isolate and detect who's the right people to approach to do a certain thing, because as you know, you can't save everyone, and sometimes
Mm.
you kind of need that kind of dedicated few with special utility skills who can make certain messages much more appealing. You know, so this is
We're in
what
serious times right now.
we are.
Yeah. So everybody has to, if you want to be part of movement, let me say that. If you want to be part of movement, and as I like, who said it? Baba John Henrik Clark. And
Mm,
you want to be on the right side of history,
yes.
yeah, you have to be engaged in the work. Yeah,
Mm,
and the work. When people say, I say that a lot of the time. I don't know. People's head goes to all different things. That work is work on yourself, and not
mm,
self of, oh, I have to just isolate myself or only look after me and mines, and and for this unlimited period of time and hardly do anything in the community, and that's me working on myself. No, because everything is simultaneous. Also, how do you measure your growth and development if not amongst your people? So we have to want to be engaged in the work. What does that work mean? Really getting to know self, getting to know our history, getting to know our selves up until this point, our own personal journey, as much as we possibly can. And everything that makes us feel uncomfortable, that is your work that you got to be working on. You got a man, woman, you're a woman or a man, and you got deep relationship issues, and it makes you highly uncomfortable. Yeah, you got plenty work to do.
This is very important.
You got issues with your children, and there's some big behavioral problems going on. You got plenty work to do.
I feel that. So, family listening, for those who are joining, this is the part 2 of our 2-part stream. We were cut early for some reason. I haven't detected why, but I think it's some of the videos we played were copyright. So I'm going to have to start using more audio-based algorithm change techniques for the next videos just to minimize if that's what it was. So that means you're going to hear a whole lot of African drums going through videos to try to mess up the algorithm. But today we're dealing with why do police mistreat black women in front of their children. Trying to find out why and is there a solution or a way to codify behavior to minimize that. And then we also looked at are statues of black people more appreciated than black specific policies. Just looked at they've just recently made a statue for Emmett Till, but we were saying that they haven't passed a bill on anything to minimize, to eradicate lynching or the murder of black boys, as we still see consistently. And also, do black people get used to symbolic gestures without actual policies or anything black specific? So this is what we're looking at. And then we were talking to Brother Buddha and Sister Sankov, who jumped in and gave great perspectives. But if there's any questions, let us know. We have come to the end of the show. So anything you want to know or do, let us know. Anything you want to do next week, by all means, let us know. Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff that people keep saying. Do that, please. And so I guess, Sister Sankova, any last words you'd like to say before we kind of leave?
Just big up everyone. Big up yourself again for like Betterment putting this show together. And I was thinking, maybe a conversation can be around, I can't think of how I would frame the question at the moment, but awakening our people to the fact that we're at war. How do we?
I'll write it down.
Something, something around that.
I'm gonna write it down. Like maybe next week we can ask the question: are we at war? Or we'll put it in a way that gets people to think and jump on. But the value of thinking we're at war. I think that's another way how I like to approach it. Like, is there a value in thinking that? Whether we are or not, is there a value? Because by thinking that, people might react a certain way. But it's definitely a good topic. I'll write it down. But until next week, everyone. Black Betterment. Thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you.